Okay, this video is going to be how to do the gear index and specifically how to do the circular patterns. So we notice on this part that there's two different distinct features. This slot that's cut out through here, and that's repeated 4 times, or five times, 4 more times. And then this little arc on the outside, which is also repeated 5 times. So you'll notice in both cases, they're telling you that there are 5 at radius 30, 5 at 72 degrees, so 72 degrees between these points, which basically tells us that this is a pattern all the way around. So to get started, we are going to first create the shape, the general shape, then we'll remove the material, pattern it, remove the second bit of material, pattern it, and then we'll talk about what this bit of information is right here. So over to onshape. I'm going to make sure that my units are metric for this part, and they already are. All right, so I'm going to take a look at this part. So I'm going to start off on my front view, and I'm going to draw a circle from the middle, and then I'm going to give it a dimension. This tells me that this arc that goes all the way around has a radius of 58. So in order for that to be the diameter, radius is half the diameter, or diameter is twice the radius. So we have 58 times 2, and that will give me a diameter of 116. So I'm going to go through now and extrude that. I have a thickness over here of 8, so I'm going to extrude that 8 millimeters. Pretty straightforward. Okay, so now I'm going to set up for this slot first. The reason why I'm doing this one first is because the location of this arc all the way around, the only information that it gives me other than the radius of it is that it starts 8 millimeters away from the edge of the slot. So I have to create the slot first before I can create the arc. So I'm going to put a new sketch on the surface. And if I look here, right, there's no indication exactly of where this is. But because this is 72 degrees all the way around, if you were to do 5 times 72, you get 360, which is all the way around the circle. So this point here is going to be lined up with the center point of my circle. So first thing I'm going to do is create a center point, and you should probably notice that it's lined up with that point right there. And then I'm going to draw a line from the edge, and actually if I go like this, because I'm coming straight off the middle, that'll create that tangent line. Hit L twice for line, and go like that. All right, so I had my tangent show up. If you didn't do it that way, right, we have our tangent constraint over here that we can use between those two items. But if I was to click that now, nothing's going to happen because I'm already there. Okay. All right, so now I got to figure out where this is going to go. Right. It is 12 millimeters between the 2 points. So I can either do the diameter of the circle as 12, or I can do between the 2 lines as 12. Both things are going to happen, and make it the same way. Then I have to go through and figure out where the center point is. So the center point here is located on this circle, and you'll notice this circle is kind of a long dash, short dash, long dash, short dash all the way around. This is called a construction line. So to create that circle, I'm going to click on my center point circle, and then I'm going to go over here to construction. And when I draw that circle, it'll have that same appearance. And this here has a diameter of 56. So if I don't click off, I can just type 56, and there that goes. Right. Now I got to place this point on the circle. So to do that, I'll use my coincident constraint, and I'll make the center point coincident to the line. That's turned black. Finish my sketch, and I'm going to remove through all. It's a good idea if you wanted to always remove all the way through that you choose that rather than a distance. If this part was something I was making and I found out that 8 millimeters was too thin or too thick, and I adjust it, my cutout might not go all the way through unless I specified that. So it's a good idea to do through all if you're cutting all the way through something. Okay, so I have one of them now. It kind of looks like this. All right, it looks like a poorly drawn Pac-Man. So now I'm going to pattern this around 5 times. The pattern is pretty simple. So up here, I have this square of boxes, which is a linear pattern. And in that menu, I have my circular pattern. In order for this to work, and this took me a little bit when I started using onshape as well, it defaults to a part pattern. I want a pattern in the feature. So I'm going to choose that. And then I'm going to choose from my menu that extrusion as my feature to pattern. And then this axis of pattern shows up red. I'm going to click on that box and then highlight the circle. And then now that knows I want to go around the center axis of that circle. I'm going to do it 5 times. All right, pretty straightforward on that. So now the arc is going to be done the exact same way. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. New sketch, create a 3-point arc along that. I have D for dimension, a radius of 58, and it's 8 millimeters away. So I'll click there, radius of 58, and then this distance here is 8 millimeters. Okay, so then that doesn't look quite right, but that's because I have to figure out where this is. Notice the center point moves as I move this. So this distance here is also 8. So there's my cutout, extrude, remove that surface through all. And then just as before, circular pattern, feature, extrusion, axis, 5 times. Okay, pretty straightforward. All right, so next and last here, all right, is that, oh, I messed that up. I just looked at this. Doesn't look right. And I kind of messed this up. And I'm going to leave this as a mess up because sometimes it happens. So what I'm just looking at is I'm looking at this going, this doesn't quite look right. This just doesn't seem shallow enough. And what I did, and this is a very common mistake, I'm human too, is I gave that a radius of 58 like this arc. But over here is my 30. So it's very easy to fix. I'm just going to go back to my sketch. And I'm going to change this radius of 58 to 30. That looks a lot better. Everything else still stays. And when I click OK, everything updates. That looks a lot better. Okay, so now it's starting to look like my part. So the last bit I'm going to do here is this hole in the middle. And what this, if you look at closely, there is 2 circles cut out. Okay, and I've got 2 circle diameters, but I got this little symbol right here. So you could draw it as 2 circles and try to figure out what's going to happen, but we're going to use our hole command. So the hole command, let me see if it lets me use my center point. All right, I'm going to use the origin. It's not going to quite let me hit, sorry. A little bit of a difference. I've been using Inventor a lot in my other class. So we're going to add a sketch. I'm going to put a point right on that middle where everything else has been lined up from. And then I'm going to finish my sketch. Go to hole. Choose that. And then this symbol is a counter bore. So holes, when they're drilled, we have simple holes, which are just straight through. Counter bore gives me a second level, like this one does. So that's commonly used for a bolt or something else that has to fit in there. And then the other type you have is a counter sink. And so counter sink, it's not going to let me, but if we look close here, gives me a V. So that's like if you've got metal parts and you're going to put a screw head through it, the screw can't seat itself in wood like you might be used to. So we've got to create that feature in there. Counter sinks are also helpful. Or inserting 2 things into each other, it gives us a little bit of kind of guidance so that that cylinder can go in there. So here we go. Counter bore. All right, so I got a bunch of information. I have a small diameter and a large diameter. So when I look here, notice I have a small diameter and a large diameter. And it just so happens that these default numbers are exactly what I need. But if they weren't, all right, my smaller diameter is 12. My larger diameter, the counterbore diameter, is 24. The depth is 3. This last depth is how far it goes through. So instead of, it only gives me 1 depth, that's the counterbore. So I'm going to change from a blind to through all. And so notice that that last dimension disappeared. And now I have my shape. Right? So there's that shape there. And that's how you complete the gear index.